You're listening to the UAE's #1 talk radio station.
This is the Business Breakfast on Dubai Eye on One.
Right, then let's get some more detail on one of our top stories this morning. Office rents in both Dubai and Abu Dhabi have begun to recover to pre-COVID levels. So say the real estate broker and consultancy Knight Frank. Joining us in the studio now is their partner and head of commercial agency for this region, Andrew Love. Morning, Andrew.
Morning, guys.
So rents bouncing back in the office market.
Indeed. Possibly, I'd probably say actually rising ahead of what they were pre-COVID.
Why?
Combination, lack of supply. No developers have really been building new office buildings. I think a combination of new companies relocating here from Asia. And also just business sentiment. I think existing companies looking to expand as well. And probably a slight flight to quality, companies moving from older buildings to newer buildings.
Okay, fair enough. Well, I'm going to let you answer a question that Tom asked me earlier on, just before we move on. Some definitions. You guys in the commercial office market talk about things like grade A, grade B, grade C. How do you define grade A, and how would you define this office that we're in now in Media City?
So grade A, you would typically have a number of lifts, usually one lift sort of per 12 persons. So if you go into the older sort of grade B, grade C buildings, where there's an undersupply of lifts, you will see generally queues. Now, I'm not going to call out specific buildings, but there's a number of those even in this area in Internet City where people are waiting over 20 to 30 seconds in the mornings. You shouldn't have that in a grade A building. You would then typically have raised floor boxes, suspended ceilings, and a floor-to-ceiling height of usually minimum 2.8 meters. Now, for us today, we'd probably see a grade A building will also have some sort of ESG credential.
ESG being?
Environmental sustainability and governance. So now looking at more sustainable work practice, whether that is solar or water recycling within the building, or even, spaces to park your electric scooters.
So if this is the kind of office space that people want, and companies like yours, Knight Frank, or the big multinationals, companies moving in from Asia, you say, why aren't people building it?
I think, Luke, if you look at where the demand is right now, it's been very much high-end luxury villa and residential sentiment. And I think the developers here have been largely focusing on that. And I think also, we know that historically there was a large oversupply of offices. So when it comes to development, you always have that lag and that period between where the market needs to catch up.
So what's going to happen? Okay, the grade A stuff down in DIFC or down in the downtown area, some of it in Media City and Internet City is grade A. There's a lot of grade A stuff. But what's going to happen to the grade B and the grade C stuff? The stuff on, Tom and I were joking earlier on, the kind of Crown Plaza side of Sheikh Zayed Road or down in Bur Dubai and down in Deira. What happens to that? Does it get upgraded and repurposed, or does something more radical have to happen?
A bit of both. Look, using your Crown Plaza is a great example. They've evicted half that side of the tower and they're going to refurbish it. So they have to reposition it. If they don't reposition it, then their rents will considerably drop until the point where either they have to, they do the refurbishment or they knock it down and repurpose it. So we've seen it, as I said, Crown Plaza being one example that they're looking to change the facade, strip it back to shell and core. If you look over the road in what I still call TCOM C, which is Barsha Heights now, there's a tower there called Thuraya. They've just refurbished all the lobby area, started to upgrade the common areas, because what we were seeing was a drastic drop in rents and occupancy levels.
But you can't really retrofit elevators, can you? That's a different level.
Well, look, if we use this area, Internet City, another Thuraya tower, a bit confusing, which is owned by EMBD, they have just replaced the lifts. They put in new Coney lifts. So it can be done. It is expensive. It takes time. But where there is a shortage of lifts, yes, it's difficult to do.
What's happening in other Emirates like Abu Dhabi to the south or Sharjah to the north?
So Sharjah, less demand. We've seen a little bit of growth there. Abu Dhabi has been a very strong year. Again, similar story to here, no new office supply, but continuing of take-up.
But so are people wanting to be on the island? Because I know, when I started off here 20-odd years ago, the majority of meetings, business meetings you'd have in Abu Dhabi would be on the main island, down towards the Corniche, really. Is that still the area, or is it areas of new Abu Dhabi around is it the Smarty we're calling the Eldar building? Is it the Smarty or the Frisbee? The Coin? You know what I mean?
Aldar have now moved from that building. They've moved into the mall. So there has been a move off island. There has been a shift, but ultimately ADGM is still there, Almarai. So you still have there is demand from occupiers to be that side of town. But then there's also been new developments like Masdar, which is environmental, sustainable again.
What's happening inside of the building? People are going back to the office, it would seem. We weren't sure 2 years ago if they would, but offices are changing on to this whole hybrid notion.
Yeah, I think, look, I'm pro-office. I share Mahmoud's, text message, rest in peace, working from home. I do think it depends on what position you're in.
Of course you flog office space. Of course you think that.
No, look, I think it depends on what sector you work in. If you're in a sales role, you can perhaps work towards this hybrid, but if you're in other professions, then you can't. I think we've probably seen where there has been a downsizing in office. What we've seen is they've moved to better quality offices and more efficient space. So you might have a workforce saying, well, I'm occupying 20,000 square foot, and they move to 16,000, but they're moving to a better quality building and getting more space for that.
So, bottom line, how many hours a week are your staff doing in the office on average, would you say, at night, Frank?
Well, if you're in the residential brokerage game, they're almost 24 hours just now.
But not in the office, in the four walls of the office.
I would say we're in the better part of 8 to 9 hours, full days now. We're expanding. We ourselves are very close to relocating. We're going from 7,000 to almost 9,500 square foot.
Good talk to you, Andrew. Appreciate your time this morning. Andrew Love is partner, head of commercial agency Knight Frank Middle East.